Tonight, we travel to a quiet valley hidden between emerald mountains. Long ago, in a village called Willowbrook, there lived a poor farmer named Arin. Arin owned no grand house, no horses, no gold, only a tiny wooden cottage beside a peaceful river. Every morning before sunrise, he would wake to the song of birds. He would carry water from the river, work in his small field, and return home long after sunset. The soil was rocky, the harvest was small, and each year seemed harder than the last. Yet Aaron never complained. He greeted everyone with kindness, shared food whenever he could, and always left a bowl of water outside for thirsty animals. The villagers respected him, but respect could not fill an empty stomach. One particularly difficult year, a great drought came to the valley. The river shrank, the crops withered, and many families struggled to survive. Aaron worked harder than ever, yet his fields produced almost nothing. One evening, exhausted from work, he sat beneath an ancient oak tree near the forest. The sky glowed orange and gold. The wind moved softly through the leaves, and before long Aaron fell asleep. As darkness settled across the valley, something extraordinary happened. A silver light appeared between the trees. It floated gently through the forest, brighter than moonlight, softer than a candle. The light slowly approached the sleeping farmer, and from within that light emerged a fairy. She wore a gown woven from starlight. Tiny silver wings shimmered behind her. Her name was Lyra, guardian of the hidden forest. For hundreds of years, Lyra had watched over the valley. She knew every stream, every bird, every flower, and she had been watching Aaron for a very long time. She had seen his kindness, his patience, his honesty, even during the hardest days. Lyra smiled, then touched the farmer's forehead with a glowing finger. A gentle wave of silver light spread through the air. "Your heart is richer than any king's," she whispered, "and because of that, I shall grant you a gift." The silver light flowed into Aaron like warm sunlight, then disappeared. The fairy vanished, and the forest became quiet once more. The next morning, Aaron awoke feeling different. Not stronger, not richer, just peaceful. As he walked toward his fields, he noticed something unusual. Tiny green shoots were emerging from the dry ground, plants that should have died weeks ago. By sunset, the field looked healthier than it had in months. Aaron couldn't explain it, but he felt grateful. Days passed, and strange blessings continued. Fruit trees produced abundant harvests. The river near his home flowed more clearly. Animals seemed drawn to his land. Even the weather appeared kinder. Word spread throughout the valley. People traveled from distant villages to see the miraculous farm. But Aaron never became proud. Instead, he shared seeds, shared food, and helped every family he could. The valley slowly began to prosper, yet this was only the beginning, because deep beneath the mountains, an ancient darkness had begun to awaken. The days passed quietly in Willowbrook. The fields of Aaron continued to flourish. Golden wheat swayed gently in the wind. Apple trees bent beneath the weight of their fruit, and for the first time in many years, the villagers felt hopeful. But far beyond the valley, deep beneath the shadow mountains, something ancient was stirring. An old darkness slept there, a darkness forgotten by time itself. For centuries it had remained silent, waiting, dreaming, growing stronger. And one evening, as the sun slowly disappeared behind the mountains, Aaron once again walked to the ancient oak tree. The air was cool. The forest was peaceful. Birds were returning to their nests. The world seemed calm, yet something felt different. The wind carried a faint silver glow, the leaves shimmered softly, and suddenly a familiar light appeared among the trees. The fairy Lyra had returned. Her silver wings sparkled beneath the moonlight. Tiny stars seemed to dance around her. Arin stood respectfully. "Lady Lyra," he said softly. The fairy smiled, but this time her eyes held concern. "The valley is in danger," she said. "A great darkness is awakening beneath the mountains." Arin felt a chill. The forest became silent. Even the wind seemed to stop listening. "What must I do?" he asked. Lyra looked toward the distant peaks. "You must prove that your heart is worthy of greater power." She raised her hand. 3 silver lights appeared in the air, each glowing softly like a small moon. "To save the valley," she said, "you must complete 3 journeys. The journey of kindness, the journey of wisdom, and the journey of courage. Only then would the ancient magic of the valley reveal itself." Arin nodded, not because he wanted power, not because he wished to become famous, but because he wanted to protect his home. The fairy smiled and handed him a small crystal pendant. Inside it glowed a tiny silver star. "This will guide you when the path becomes unclear." Then she vanished into the night, leaving only silver sparkles drifting through the air. The next morning, before sunrise, Arin began his first journey, the journey of kindness. The pendant glowed faintly, leading him toward the Whispering Woods, a forest older than any kingdom. The trees there were enormous. Their branches stretched toward the clouds. The air smelled of moss and rain. As Arin walked deeper into the woods, he heard crying, soft, lonely, almost hidden beneath the sound of leaves. Following the sound, he discovered a small fox trapped beneath a fallen branch. Its leg was injured. The fox trembled with fear. Arin knelt beside it, carefully lifting the heavy branch. Then he wrapped the injured leg with cloth torn from his own sleeve. The fox looked at him with grateful eyes, and something magical happened. The animal began to glow. Golden light surrounded its body. Moments later, the fox transformed into a spirit of the forest, a creature made entirely of golden light. "You have passed the first test," the spirit said. "Many seek power, but few stop to help those who cannot help themselves." The spirit touched Arin's pendant. The tiny star inside grew brighter. Then the spirit disappeared into the trees. For many days Arin traveled, crossing rivers, walking through quiet meadows, sleeping beneath the stars. Eventually he arrived at a place called the Mirror Lake, a perfectly still lake hidden among the mountains. Its surface reflected the sky so clearly that it seemed endless. Here awaited the second journey, the journey of wisdom. In the center of the lake stood a small island, and upon that island sat an ancient white owl, older than memory itself. Its feathers shimmered like moonlight. Its eyes contained countless years of knowledge. The owl spoke. His voice sounded like rustling pages. "Answer one question, and you may continue." Arin nodded. The owl asked, "What makes a ruler truly great?" Arin thought carefully. He did not answer quickly. Minutes passed. The lake remained silent. Finally he said, "A ruler is not great because people serve him. A ruler is great because he serves his people." The owl closed its eyes as if pleased, then spread its wings. Silver feathers filled the air. "You have spoken the truth." The owl touched the crystal pendant, and the star inside grew brighter still. 2 journeys were now complete. Yet the greatest challenge remained, the journey of courage. And far beneath the mountains, The ancient darkness continued to awaken, his eyes slowly opening after centuries of sleep. The moon hung quietly above the valley. Silver light covered the mountains. The forest slept peacefully. The rivers flowed softly beneath the stars. But far beneath the shadow mountains, the ancient darkness was no longer sleeping. It was awake, slowly, patiently, waiting. And now Aaron's final journey was about to begin, the journey of courage. For 3 days and 3 nights, Aaron followed the glow of the crystal pendant. The path became steeper. The air grew colder. The trees became fewer. Soon he reached the foot of the shadow mountain. Towering cliffs stretched toward the sky. Dark clouds drifted above the peaks. The wind whispered through the rocks, almost as if the mountains themselves were speaking. At the base of the tallest peak stood an enormous cave. Its entrance looked like the mouth of a sleeping giant. Black shadows moved inside. The pendant began glowing brighter than ever before. Aaron knew this was the place, the cave of shadows, the final test. Taking a deep breath, he stepped inside. The cave was silent, very silent. The kind of silence that made every heartbeat sound loud. The walls shimmered faintly with dark crystals. Strange echoes drifted through the tunnels. Sometimes they sounded like whispers. Sometimes they sounded like distant footsteps. Yet, whenever Aaron turned around, no one was there. He continued walking, deeper and deeper and deeper, until he reached a vast underground chamber, a chamber larger than any castle. In its center stood a black stone throne, ancient, broken, covered with dust from forgotten centuries, and upon that throne sat a shadow, not a person, not an animal, but pure darkness itself. Its shape constantly shifted, like smoke moving in the wind. 2 glowing red eyes opened, watching Aaron. The chamber suddenly grew colder. The shadow spoke. Its voice echoed from every direction. "Why have you come, farmer?" Aaron stood calmly. "To protect my valley." The darkness laughed, a deep, terrible sound. "Protect it? You are weak. You own nothing. You are nobody." The cave shook. Dark mist filled the air, and suddenly images appeared around him. Visions from his past. Years of struggle, years of failure, years of hunger. He saw his empty fields, his broken tools, the lonely nights, the difficult winters. The darkness whispered, "You suffered all your life. Take my power. Rule through fear. No one will ever look down upon you again." The temptation was strong, very strong. For a moment, Aaron remembered every hardship he had ever faced, every painful memory, every disappointment. But then he remembered something else. The smiling villages, the children playing beside the river, the old woman who shared stories near the fire, the fox spirit, the wise owl, and the fairy Lyra. He remembered kindness and hope and love, the things that made the valley worth protecting. Aaron raised his head and spoke firmly. "Power without kindness is emptiness." The darkness trembled. The pendant suddenly burst into brilliant silver light. The star inside shone like a miniature sun. The cave filled with radiance. The shadows screamed. The darkness retreated. But the test was not over. The throne cracked. The ground shook violently. Ancient stones fell from the ceiling, and from beneath the throne emerged a gigantic creature, a dragon, not made of flesh, but made entirely of shadows. Its wings stretched across the chamber. Its eyes glowed red. Its roar echoed through the mountains. The dragon charged toward Aaron. The ground trembled beneath its feet. Yet Aaron did not run. He did not attack. Instead, he stood perfectly still, holding the pendant against his chest, the silver light grew brighter and brighter and brighter until the entire cave was glowing. The dragon slowed, its roar became quieter, its red eyes softened. The shadows surrounding its body began to disappear, and something unexpected happened. The dragon started changing. The darkness peeled away, layer by layer, revealing brilliant golden scales beneath. The creature had never truly been evil. It had simply been trapped by darkness for centuries. The dragon lowered its head and bowed before Aaron. The final test was complete. At that moment, the fairy Lyra appeared, surrounded by silver stars. Her face glowed with pride. "You have passed all three journeys, the journey of kindness, the journey of wisdom, and the journey of courage." The entire cave began to shine. Ancient symbols appeared across the walls. The mountains themselves seemed to awaken, and from deep within the earth, a hidden power emerged, the magic of the valley, pure, ancient, and beautiful. The light flowed into Aaron's crystal pendant, transforming it into a golden star. The fairy smiled. "The valley has chosen its guardian. But your greatest adventure is only beginning." Because beyond the mountains, a powerful king had heard rumors of the magical valley, and he had already begun preparing his army. The stars drifted quietly across the night sky. The mountains stood silent, the rivers whispered softly through the valley, and for a brief moment everything felt peaceful. Aaron had completed the 3 sacred journeys. The darkness had been defeated. The golden dragon had been freed, and the ancient magic of the valley now rested safely within the golden star pendant around his neck. But peace rarely lasts forever. Far beyond the mountains, beyond forests, rivers, and deserts, lay a powerful kingdom called Iron Crest. Its cities were enormous, its castles touched the clouds, its armies were feared throughout the land, and upon the throne sat King Magnus. Magnus was not an evil king, but he was obsessed with power. He wanted more land, more wealth, more glory, no matter the cost. One evening, a traveling merchant arrived at his palace. The merchant spoke of a mysterious valley, a place where crops never failed, where rivers never dried, where magical creatures walked freely, and where an ordinary farmer had somehow gained ancient power. King Magnus listened carefully. His eyes narrowed. "The magic belongs to me," he said quietly. And from that moment, his heart became fixed on one goal: to claim the valley. Weeks later, scouts arrived near Willowbrook. They wore dark cloaks and watched from the hills. The villagers noticed strangers moving among the trees. Whispers spread quickly. Fear returned. One evening, Aaron stood beside the river when Lyra appeared once more. The fairy looked worried. "The king of Iron Crest is coming." Aaron remained calm. "How large is his army?" Lyra sighed softly. "Larger than any force this valley has ever seen." The river continued flowing. The stars reflected upon its surface. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Aaron smiled. "Then we will protect the valley together." The next morning, something remarkable happened. Messengers traveled throughout every village, every farm, every forest settlement, calling people together, not for war, but for unity. Within days, thousands gathered: farmers, fishermen, carpenters, blacksmiths, teachers, families, everyone who called the valley home. They expected Aaron to speak about courage. The valley was not built by magic, Aaron told them. It was built by people helping one another. The real power of this land is not hidden in mountains. It is hidden in our hearts. The crowd became silent. Many felt their fear begin to fade. Meanwhile, King Magnus and his army crossed the mountains. Thousands of soldiers marched beneath banners of gold and black. Armor shimmered beneath the sun. Drums echoed through the valleys. Villages along the route trembled at their arrival. The king rode at the front, confident, certain of victory. Yet as they approached Willowbrook, something unexpected happened. The weather changed. Gentle golden light filled the sky. Birds gathered overhead. The forest seemed alive. The rivers sparkled brighter than ever before. Even the soldiers began feeling strangely peaceful. The valley's ancient magic had awakened. That evening, King Magnus finally reached Willowbrook. He expected walls, defenses, soldiers waiting for battle. Instead, he found something entirely different. The villagers stood peacefully in the fields. No weapons, no threats, no anger, only calm faces. And standing among them was Arene, the former farmer, the guardian of the valley. The king laughed. "You think kindness can stop an army?" Arene smiled gently. "No, kindness cannot stop an army, but it can change a heart," the king scoffed. Yet something about Arene's voice felt different. Honest, steady, fearless. For the first time, Magnus hesitated. Then the golden star pendant began to glow, softly at first, then brighter and brighter until golden light spread across the entire valley. The light touched every soldier, every villager, every tree, every river. The magic revealed something no one expected. Memories. The soldiers remembered their families, their children, their homes, their dreams.